Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a moment, I'm going to be walking my happy butt over to the futon because it's time for me to watch Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. And honestly, I don't know about that name, The Scargiver, but hey, whatever. I haven't watched it yet. Maybe it actually has some meaning to the film. We shall find out. Well, anyways, guys, this is Part 2 of the Zack Snyder directed, I guess you could say, Star Wars influenced films that are on Netflix. Now, Part 1 was just a story of them building their team and getting ready to take the fight to the big baddie. And in this film, they've got their team, they're training them, and they're going to take this fight to the big bad guy, because that's what you do. When you get your team, you go fight the bad guy. So guys, you can go ahead and watch my previous review of Rebel Moon Part 1. I found the movie to be average at best. It was honestly my least favorite Zack Snyder film. It wasn't terrible, it was just, okay. And I'm really hoping that this movie really knocks that out of the ballpark, because I did like some of the stuff that I saw in that movie. I just didn't get enough of it. So I'm hoping that this film will at least explain who that robot dude was and why he had antlers at the end of the film. But alright, well, you know what? It's enough of me sitting here yammering. It's time for me to go get some answers, and my good old buddy Haku is waiting on me. So I will head on over to the futon, because it's time for me to watch Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Welcome back. Just getting done checking out Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. And yeah, they do explain the meaning behind the whole Scargiver thing, and it's just as corny of an origin as the sound, Scargiver. Like, let me put it to you this way, that when I was watching the film, this is what I thought of. I was thinking of the scene from Guardians of the Galaxy where all of a sudden the dude's like, from now on everybody calls me Taserface. Like, it sounds really cool in your head, and you're saying, like, man, as soon as I say this, everybody in the room is going to be, like, erupting with fear. It's such a cool, powerful sounding name. And then you say it, and everybody in the room's just like, okay, homie, you go with that. That is exactly how this goes in this film, too. Like, the dude is like, the Scargiver. And he is the only one who ever says that throughout the entire thing. The main baddie dude. It's just corny, and that's pretty much how this movie is. It is kind of fluff. It is a lot of fluff. In gamer terminology, this film is needless DLC for a video game that was just okay to begin with. And that's how it goes. So let's get this started, shall we? We're going to get things started with the negatives, then move into the positives to end the video on the ever so important high note. Because yes, even though this movie disappointed the hell out of me, there is some good stuff here, and we are going to get to it. So number one thing that really bothered me is some of the same crap that bothered me in the first film. This just feels like a lead up to something else. We do finally wrap up the events in the first movie, but don't expect any character development or anything of that sort. Everything in this film just is action. This is nothing more than some really cool action shots and things of that sort, which is fine, but the previous film gave us no world building or story development or anything like that. The characters, we didn't really care about them because there was no character development. Each one of them was just kind of a character of something else. And in this film, they don't do anything to solve that problem whatsoever. The first 36 minutes of this film, and I do know it's 36 minutes because I paused the movie, is nothing more than people farming and the big baddie healing. 36 minutes of slow motion wheat farming, or I should say harvesting, and then tons of scenes of them zooming in on someone's face with the wheat in their hand, and then they pull the wheat off of the stalk, and then they blow the wheat into the distance, and sure, it looks cool, but we've got 36 minutes, and then at the 36-minute mark, one of the dudes like bangs a big bell, and he's like, now we train. And then they finally learn how to use the weapons and fight back against the soldiers. It's just so pointless. The first part of this movie was just boring, and it didn't go anywhere. And then when you finally get to a point where you think there's going to be character development or something of that sort, it's literally just the main characters sitting around a table telling their NPC origin story. And that's why I went ahead and said this is like DLC that didn't matter. Because it's not really character development, you just learn something from their past. It's like, I became an axe-wielding, shirtless soldier because something bad happened to my mom and the whole world was destroyed, boo is me. And then the next guy tells their boo-boo story, and then the next guy tells their boo-boo story, and that is character development in this film. The movie, the story, the character development, the world building, none of that really comes together in this film, and it just seems like nothing more than just a big, spectacular visual event. So I guess that brings me to the positives. This film's visuals are outstanding. I loved the action sequences in this film. Some of the filming was beautiful. The special effects were also extremely well done. Zack Snyder has a really good usage of CGI, and that's always really apparent in his films, and in this one it is pretty solid. There are some scenes, maybe because of the ship's shape or something. I wasn't a huge fan of the design of the ships in this, but there are some parts where the ships and all just do not feel like they blend in with the scenery. Like they're just not really there for moments, but other than that, everything looks fairly solid. The action sequences are great. Yes, there's all of that Zack Snyder token slow motion, but it looks really, really good. And the film is very colorful. A lot of this isn't in the darkness of night like some of his other films. It's very out there and in your face. The fight choreography is also beautifully done and well handled. All of the action aspects, visual effects, and all of that sort, all of that is very on point. But man, story-wise, character-wise, everything like that is extremely shallow. This movie is a big, spectacular, mind-blowing event with absolutely no substance behind it whatsoever. And I'm sorry to say that, but if you're in the mood to just watch something that looks pretty, this is going to definitely be for you. Now, is this a movie that would possibly bring in Netflix subscribers? No, I don't believe so. I don't think it's a good enough movie for that. But I do believe that people who already have a Netflix subscription are going to want to watch this, if anything, to see the follow-up, to find out, if Hopper and the Grasshoppers do get their grain or not. Well, guys, that's really all I have for you. I have to say, if this is something that you're interested in, you're probably a Zack Snyder fan, give it a watch. Again, it's a very visually spectacular film, but if you're expecting some kind of substance, it is just not going to be there for you. Well, that's all I have for you today, guys. Thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. I'm gonna.